The April 9th, 2024 regular school board meeting to order. If you'd stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Colleen, would you take roll call, please?
Haefman, Hughesby,
Yes.
Hirsch,
Yes.
Kissinger Wolf,
Present.
Long,
Here.
Scuball,
Here.
Swinty, here, Baloo,
Here.
Zimmerman.
Yes.
Okay, we have a quorum. Looking for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I so move, Scuball.
Second, Falou.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. District Administrator report.
Okay, a couple things tonight. First of all, just an election update. We didn't put this as an agenda item. I figured I would cover it within my report tonight. But first and foremost, I'd like to congratulate and welcome Lonnie Calhoun on his win as a write-in candidate. So he'll swear in later this month, and then May will be his first meeting coming up. And then also I'd like to thank Sherry Haefman. So she served on this board for 12 years, and this would be her last meeting. She's not present tonight, but just special thanks to her for her service to the district as well. I wanted to update you on the legislative dinner that I attended on April 1st in Medford. This is an annual event. They had taken a few years off for COVID. They brought it back last year, and this was their 99th time hosting this event, they said. So it's something that they're going to continue well into the future. They're having a superintendent change in that district, but it's definitely something that's an initiative that they're going to keep going. So it was well attended. They had 9 legislators, 3 senators, and 6 representatives were present. And over 18 school districts in our area were represented. Some of the topics of interest that they talked about, so there was basically some conversations that were set up. How it worked is there was a table up front. You could sign up to talk about a particular topic and present on a particular topic. So certain districts did that. So some of the big ones that came out, some of the notable items were some challenges to Act 20. And not to Act 20 as a whole, which is the new reading legislation and mandates that are going through, but some of the points that were brought up. First, I guess before I get into these, I'd like to say the really neat thing about the format is you're speaking to a panel. So you've got mostly school board members and superintendents and administrators sitting in their auditorium. And then you've got your panel of legislators, and it's an opportunity for them to do 2 things: ask questions and learn more about topics maybe they didn't know and gain some perspective. Because they admittedly will tell you, we don't, nobody on that panel sits on the education committee. Mm-hmm. So they're not privy to as much information as you think they would be. But they do get to vote on these things. So it's an opportunity for that to occur, but it's also an opportunity to gain perspective from them on what the other side is, or why maybe a bill isn't supported as heavily as folks in education think it might be. So Act 20 was one of those. A couple of things that they really talked about. First and foremost was the timeline. So the timeline set by the state and how conflicting that is with districts as we have our own curriculum review cycles and deadlines coming up. We have to make decisions regarding what kind of screeners and diagnostic tools we're going to use, even knowing that they're going to have a mandate on what we have to use. So the committee's doing some really good work, but the timing of it is, I think, causing some anxiety with districts as they're forced to make decisions, not knowing if those decisions that they're making are just temporary. If you make a temporary decision, you still have to train staff and get people behind it. So there's some high level and expensive decisions that need to be made, and there's a lot of unknowns right now. So people are pumping the brakes, and ultimately kids are being affected by it. So some of that was brought forward. Some of the other pieces were, especially in regard to diagnostics and the screening materials, were the conflicts with students that are non-English speaking, because the mandate is that they take these screeners in English. So it's going to say that they're a poor reader when in essence they have a language barrier. So there's some of those things, and what we landed on, it was nice to get the other side where some of those folks were saying, Abbotsford presented on that, and Abbotsford is 61% non-English speaking, or EL. So they were admittedly saying this bill wasn't written with Abbotsford in mind, right? It was written for a lot of other reasons, but it's a fluid bill. And knowing that and encouraging people to come when and how important it is to testify in front of the legislature when these things are coming up. Had they known some of those things, it might have been able to be worked into the bill initially, but down the road, it certainly will be something that they address and they can change and tweak the bill so it fits schools better. So very good conversation around that. State testing was a hot topic. We started our state testing today with forward testing. Some of the bigger things that I think had traction with the committee was making sure that they know we don't get our results the next day. We wait until midsummer or well into the next school year before we get our results from that test, which acts as a demotivator for many of our students, even some of our staff, and the importance of the test. So placing a high stakes test like that in place, the question was, can we start to, even if we don't move away from forward, can we do some things within the forward testing to make it more relevant to our current situation and something that's more usable for districts? And then some of the other questions around that were, whether maybe a more adaptive test would be a better option to get a more thorough understanding of where students are ability-wise and that sort of thing. 4K funding was a topic that we spent a lot of time discussing. There are 7 schools within CESA 9 that have full-time 4K that have went to that. Now, the request was made that 4K be funded at a 1.0, and right now 4K students are funded at a 0.5. So there was a lot of really good arguments around the benefits for full-time 4K taught through schools, and the benefits, I guess, for your community and for having that. One of the things that the legislators brought up that was very interesting to everybody in the room is how if you have full-time 4K, especially in small towns, you run the risk of eliminating daycares throughout your community, because the only way daycares turn a profit is with the older students because of the mandates from the state on staff to for infants and toddlers, the ratio between staff and child, and the expense. So they don't really have a profit in the lower ages. They make it in the older groups. So what the legislators said was an interesting point on, while it might be the best educationally for kids to do that, overall for the community, if you put your daycares out of business, there's going to be some effects from that as well. So it's a balancing act between the politics of it, the economy of it, and also what's best for kids educationally. Again, a good opportunity where you see both sides and why the state is
When
maybe.
they talk that, may I ask, was they talking about 5 day a week 4K, or they talking 3 days a week, or?
The full time would be 5 days.
Okay.
Yeah, full days, 5
They
days.
would put someone, could put someone out.
Mm-hmm. So that was a good conversation and good to know. And it opens the door, I think when we think about our situation, it changes my perspective on where that starting point is. Maybe we need to do a better job of just reaching out, working with our daycare providers and starting there, rather than jumping all in and saying 4K, full-time 4K is what's going to be best for our community. So we may get there someday, but I think it was eye-opening for me. School funding and equity was always a hot topic, but this one had a little more gravity, more so in the sense of looking at the discrepancy between low revenue schools and high revenue schools. And I think the panel up there was a little more receptive. I don't think we're going to see big sweeping change to how schools are funded. It doesn't seem like that's going to gain a lot of traction. But what they did seem pretty warm to was exactly what happened this last time, where you're raising that low revenue ceiling. So what I'm talking about is some of your schools, when spending caps were put in place in the early 90s, if you were a high spending district at that time, that was reflected in your revenue cap the next year. If you were a low spending district for that 1 year, that was reflected in your spending cap. So you had discrepancies throughout the state on how much the state allowed you to generate in terms of revenue and tax revenue throughout your district. And that has remained. So anytime there was increases, it increased on both levels. So now you have discrepancies where the change of a zip code could mean the change of $4,000 per kid within that district. So by raising the low revenue ceiling, you leave the high spending districts where they are, which doesn't help them. And there's quite a number of those, and that's a problem too. But you're bringing those lower ones, incrementing them closer to that top, those high spending districts. So that seemed like it was something that was a model that the state, at least the folks that were there, seemed pretty warm to, and it seemed like that's probably going to remain as we move forward. The other thing they talked about was decoupling, the decoupling legislation where they took the vouchers off the tax roll, so students that qualify for vouchers to go to private schools is now going to be funded through general purpose revenue rather than going on tax rolls and be taken out that way. And then obviously special ed funding came up, and there was some conversation around that. And then the last thing we spoke on that night was a debate back and forth on allowing more local control in terms of when the start of school would be. So not setting a mandate saying you absolutely can start before Labor Day, but if it's the right thing for your community, you would have options for the board to make that decision and then apply for a waiver with DPI. So it looks like there's some possibilities that may become a reality at some point, but it's going to be a long process, and it seems that there's a good number of folks in the legislature that do not want that to be an option. So we'll keep an eye on that one. All in all, it was a really good night. Next year, as this comes up, I'll make sure I send it out a little earlier, so if any of you want to attend that evening as well, we can put that together. Second thing on my list was the Wall of Honor, and we talked about this just before the board meeting started, but first I just want to thank Greg Albert for making room for us. He did provide some room for us to have a table. We'll be able to showcase what our project looks like or what it's going to look like when it's finished. We have it staffed. I think we're manned, the table manned for the most part. We got some big chunks on Sunday, so if anyone's not doing anything Sunday and wants to swing by, but we'll be there and we'll be talking about the project and trying to fundraise as much as we can to offset the cost of it. School perception survey started today. That went out to students will take it starting tomorrow, but it went out to staff and families today. So they have, the window for that is April 9th through the 22nd. And then the last thing on my list, I know that Ryan Flynn added this in his report, so you probably read about it there, but I wanted to mention it as well. But our school was awarded the Rural Mutual WIA Sportsmanship Award for the state hockey tournament, which is a huge honor. So for our players, coaches, students, our families, and every community member that was down there, I think it's a huge honor for how our community was represented, how our school was represented at that level. And we certainly hope not only it becomes the norm that we get the opportunity to do those things, but also that we continue to represent our community well. So that was excellent. That's all I have on my list tonight.
Wow, that's a lot. I know I attended one of those legislative meetings. That was quite interesting. It was a while ago. Okay. Moving on to, I'm looking for the consent agenda items presented that we've got the minutes from quite a few meetings, the regular meeting, the ad hoc, the personnel, the policy, closed sessions, and to approve the invoices and employee contracts and adjustments and donations. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
I so move, Swente.
And a second?
Long second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. That goes all the way through the,
Yeah.
yes, staff reports. Anything on staff reports?
So staff reports, we have
Back here.
Megan Barker with us tonight. She agreed to be here. We are, I don't know how far, but at least definitely knee deep or neck deep maybe in the enrollment process for, it started last weekend for summer school. So a lot of excellent offerings. I was looking over the sheet as she had this out.
Thank you.
Looking over the sheet and some of the things that students had the opportunity to take this summer. And
It's quite a list.
it is a great list, and
Yeah.
it's nice to see that many staff members step up to the plate to want to provide those opportunities too.
So we definitely are deep in. Registration opened on Sunday morning, And we have 370 kids already registered. That's amazing. Last year, at the end of summer school, our total enrollment was 388. So to be 3 days in and we're already there, we're absolutely gonna exceed our enrollment. You saw me list there in number 3 some of the reasons why I think that is. A big part of it is that we're way ahead of the game compared to last year. We were really waiting on if even the grant got approved, and so we're at least a month ahead there as far as getting the registration out and all of those things. We also made some changes. There's new classes, which I'll talk about in a little bit, that are very high interest for the kids. Another change we made is to align with swimming lessons. And the swimming lessons are just huge for families, and they want one-stop shopping where they can drop their child off and have it all happen at once. And that's always been a struggle in the past. So we really advocated this year to have the swimming lessons exactly match up with the summer school day, and that we've gotten great feedback off of that. I am not sure if we'll be able to continue that once the grant is over, because that also means we're not bringing in any revenue from swim. But families are appreciating it this year, that they're getting that opportunity. I feel like the families are better at the online registration this year. That was a big nervousness last year going in, and they're better trained this year. We had it out there for about 3 weeks where people could check their logins and do all of those things, and I think that helped a lot. None of this can happen without Colleen, I just have to say. I mean, she does everything with all of the computer work of all of this, so I'm just letting you know that. If you look at some of the course offerings, I'm really excited and proud that we have some DNR and American Red Cross classes that we're doing this year. Those are highly popular, and they all filled within the first hour that registration opened. And so I have a plan for next year to expand on that. 2 of our staff members, Raleigh John and Bill Jemlick, are finishing up their DNR certifications right now for being instructors. So this summer, they're gonna be shadowing people from the DNR who are coming in, but next year we'll be able to do that all in-house, and then we can expand and offer more classes. So I think that'll be really exciting for kids. Our babysitting course, that also filled within the first hour. My Amanda Duncan is teaching that, and my goal would be to have 2 of those next year. This was kind of the tester year for that, to see how it would go over. Clearly it was great. I have listed in number 5 some of our other brand new offerings. A lot of these are tied to our community partnerships. The bowling alley was amazing with us as far as giving us a great deal on kids being able to come in there every day during this time. And so we also have a new Exploring Historic Tomahawk class where they're gonna do like daily field trips to different areas of the community. So that's gonna be really great. In number 6, we also have 4 Lego robotics and coding classes. That's also something that's brand new. And so part of the funds from the grant were used to buy all the Lego robotics, and then our new smart lab that we're gonna have is gonna house all of this. So Denise Leitner is who is doing all of the teaching of those classes, and it's all gonna be in those labs. So that's really exciting. And 3 of those classes are almost completely full. So I anticipate by the end they all will be. We're still, a big portion of the grant is about mental health and self-regulation, and so we still have a number of classes in place to assist kids with that, and some of those are brand new classes. And then our reading and math support, we also made some adjustments to tighten that up for this summer. The entire morning for some students is reading and math support, And we made sure that we really tightened up who was getting recommended for those classes. So it was based very much on data from Fastbridge and from iReady, and also teacher input and teacher referral. And so I wish I could say we could make those families sign up, but it ultimately is parent decision. Official letters were sent home to all of the students who were referred for reading and math, so there's no way they didn't know. Whether they sign up or not will remain to be seen. Some grade levels are already full, so it is working. But I don't think we're gonna get all of them that we refer. So one of the things that we are gonna have in place, just to kind of keep tight on the data with this, is that if a student is referred and chooses not to come, then there is gonna be a letter in their queue file that this was offered and they did not take advantage of the opportunity. So that's what I'm doing. Do you have any questions? I don't have the goat yoga. I promised that last time. The person who was gonna teach that is not here this year, and the goats are born at the right time, so. So I apologize for that.
What is the number tentatively for the math support at various grade levels?
So right now, when a student signs up for that, they're maxed out at a grade level at 15. And I have some grade levels that are maxed out, some that aren't. I will say that we have a lot more middle school participation than we ever have. And that's part of having more offerings for their age level too. So those kids who need those support classes have a little more incentive to come, that they could take an enrichment class in the afternoon. So yeah.
What is the end date for registering? I didn't.
So
maybe it's
I'm
in there.
leaving the registration open till April 26th, so it's open for 3 weeks.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
our office staff will tell you that they get calls throughout the day. I would say that we're registering 10 to 15 more kids a day. So as much as we advertise it, people still are like, I didn't know that this is happening. So,
I know.
but it's definitely smoother than last year, so I think moving to doing the online registration was huge, and it just made everyone's lives easier, including mine.
Good.
So registration started Sunday morning, and
Right.
both of them were up here Sunday morning, making sure that things went right, and a few issues, but they were able to work through them, so.
Yeah, last year registration was on a Monday, and we regretted that just because the typical school day Monday, and Annette, our secretary in the elementary office, was just flooded. And so to have it be on a Sunday was not only easier for parents to not be at work when it was happening, but also we had a little more free time to just focus on the phone calls.
I also saw on Facebook several parents commenting how happy they were and appreciative of the support they got on that Sunday.
Oh, good.
They were posting on Facebook, of course. Yeah, good stuff. I like the good stuff.
I'm gonna just add something for the historical one. There's gonna be something called a Tomahawk this summer. It's a walking historical tour downtown, so that's Main Street is putting it on, so.
Is it during this time period?
I don't know, they would know from Main Street, they're the ones coordinating it, they've
Okay,
been
I will
coordinating
pass
the
that on
stuff.
to Raleigh John, he's the one teaching that.
Yeah,
We've done that in the past with the high school students, where they've done tours of town, I know.
Sure.
the people will dress in character and then tell stories
Yeah,
about the
right,
buildings.
exactly.
Yeah, so that's in the works.
Good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
excellent,
Thank
thank
you
you.
very much.
Hey, you're welcome.
And Colleen, thank you.
Did you even spend any time at home this weekend?
Barely.
I love her.
Okay, we have the staff reports in here. Any questions for the staff in their reports?
I just have one question. Wendy's report, it said that we had added a second grade teacher, and wasn't it first grade?
On the ESSER one? You're right, it was a typo.
Correct, we'll adjust that.
Thank you.
Okay.
I,
catch, thank you.
were they done?
And donuts for dads, I don't think it's at 8:30 at night, but
8:30 at night, I put? Sorry. 8:30 in the morning.
Changing it up a little this
I mean,
year.
that's minor, but I don't want any dads showing up.
Hey, Dad, shut up at 8:30.
Get a sugar bus.
They're gonna want other things,
Yeah.
not just donuts.
We're gonna have other stuff.
I have a question for Stacy, maybe Wendy, on your Raise Your Voice Club. Are you getting, I saw you had the open registration for that? Did
Cassie
you?
just had the meetings, I think, this week, so I'm not sure, it's this week, yeah, so.
Oh, so you
I'm
don't
not
have
sure yet
official
where I'm at.
numbers of
No.
who were interested?
No,
Okay,
we have some student leaders that are engaged and committed, and,
okay,
you know, and they're gonna start that color run to get some attention, and run their, work with Merrill, they went to a workshop, in Wausau, like last month, I think, I'd have to look back, you know, but last month, and to learn more about it, and, you know, just get their feet wet before, as they're learning about the system.
okay. I think it's getting a bit of traction in other school districts too.
Most of the schools in the CISA 9 area, in our area have
Mhm.
that group,
Okay, thanks.
so, yep.
So what exactly is the color run?
Color run.
Yeah.
So,
You dress in colors,
so
crayons?
like, you've never seen it where the kids, you run and then they have like, it's like color, exploding color.
Okay, it's
instead
one
of
of those, it's like a
basically
pink.
like ground up sidewalk chalk is basically what it
Okay.
is, and then kids can buy shirts or they can wear their own clothes and there's, they get doused with color.
I
And then we have.
just wanted to
leaf
confirm
blowers
that.
We'll blow them off. At the end. Jesse will be volunteering, voluntold, bring your leaf blower, here it's coming. But no, our Susie Coleman, who is is 7th grade ELA, and she heads up student council, and Cassie, basically through student council, PBIS, Raise Your Voice wanted to sponsor this. Susie has done this in her previous districts before, and it's been a lot of fun, and we thought it'd be a really cool way to end the year, and then now tying these other things into it, it's hopefully gonna be fun, we'll see. We're gonna modify the cross-country course in the back of the complex. You know, normally when we run our middle school cross-country meets, they go through the woods and they come back, and it's like a mile and a half-ish, almost 2 miles. We're gonna cut off the whole woods loop and just do a loop in the back. So it'll be short and fun and give the kids something to talk about.
Pictures galore.
And one more question for Mark, did you pick a program?
We are not publicly stating if we did or did not yet. We
Okay.
chose them, we're working out the finances now.
Okay,
So we don't want it to go out to say that these are what the programs are and this is what we're gonna do, because if the finances come back in a certain way and go, oh, hey, look at that. We wanna make sure we do our due diligence with that one before we state, but yes, the team has come to a 100% consensus
great,
on where the direction we wanna go.
good to know.
Okay. Moving on to item 9, approve the addition of assistant summer swim. Oh, ESSER update. Oh, it's backwards on this one. Sorry, I'm looking at the old one. ESSER update.
No, I'm just gonna say, so just the ESSER update, that's the one that
Okay,
Ian was
here.
talking about, there was the note, just so every 6
I'll throw these
months,
away.
we're required just to report to the board where we changed it, so as, you know, it was a big lump sum, it last year goes through September, we have to have it all spent out, so as needs change, things come up, we make some adjustments. It has to address evidence-based practices, it has to address, math, literacy, mental health, and maintenance and things like that as impacted by COVID. So like one of the things that you noticed on there, we did touch-free faucets in the building, so those are some maintenance things that helped out. You know, we've looked at different staffing needs due to increased social emotional needs, increased academic deficits that we've seen, so we added and adjusted staff through that, and then through our budget planning, you know, we continue to look at how we prioritize those positions going forward. So we'll give you a final update as the funds get expended in September, and then I won't have to do it anymore. Well done with ESSER. So any questions on anything we did there, we update it each time and then just highlight the changes so that when it gets published, the community can see it. And we have to keep our COVID plan on the website and update that too. So if nobody looks at it, we always have to dig for it every time, and see where is it, but anyways, it's still there to be compliant, so that everybody knows what we're doing. That's it.
Thank you, Wendy. Okay, now I'll move on, now they have the right agenda. Item 10, approve the addition of assistant summer swim instructor.
So we, last year, we had a high number of students that took our summer swim program. This year, like Megan stated, it's a little different. It's more ingrained and incorporated into summer school. So hopefully we'll have even higher numbers, but that's always a high number, high number of kids that take our summer swim courses. Last year, and the way it's set up is you have a person on deck, you have your lifeguard, and then you have your swim instructors. And your swim instructors, if there's too many kids, especially with the younger age groups, they'll have 2 swim instructors. What Kelly Tollefson came to us and said is we don't really need 2 swim instructors. We need 1 swim instructor, and they just need another, it could be a student, it could be somebody else, but it doesn't need to be a fully trained swim instructor to do that. So that's a much more cost-effective way for us to run our summer swim program as well. So what I'm proposing is we created these positions. I attached a job description there, and they would just be $10 an hour positions. We would want them to be CPR certified, and a number of other things so they could be helpful in the pool. But we would, the number of these positions would really be dependent on how many, what the turnout is and what the enrollment is in our summer swim. But she thought that would be a good idea, and I spoke with Ryan Flynn and Sandy, and we sat down and tried to put our heads together on what that would look like. So this is what we came up with. So it's a new position to our district, but in essence, we're going to need the bodies. These are $10 an hour instead of $14 an hour or whatever a swim instructor would be.
Okay, any questions?
My liability trigger is going up in my head. Have you checked with insurance?
For in which
The
way?
age that's required for swim instructors?
These would be the same age group that we would require for our lifeguards and other folks. So they would be So no, I didn't.
Just an
But I
automatic.
did. Yeah, I did look at. So we put a minimum of 16. I think a work permit's 14. We wanted it to be.
No?
Or no, our lifeguards are 16. Yeah.
16.
But they would be able to have a work permit, and they would be able to be in the pool.
I'll make a motion to approve the addition of assistant summer swim instructors.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second. Baloo?
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. On to item 11, approve the first reading of the following policies. There's 2 policies. The policy committee has met. We went through 24 policies. There's 2 new ones that we're adding on. So you have 2 of them here. The district support and sponsor student activities account, and then the volunteer one. Everyone should have had a chance to review those to see if you had any questions. I don't know if Ann or Deb, if you have anything to add. We're in the committee too.
No, I do not.
Okay, we need 2 readings of this since it's new. So I'll look for a motion to approve these policies.
I so move, Screwball.
And the second?
Second, Swente.
Motion's been made and seconded for the first reading of the 2 policies on item 11. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Item 12, there's a number of, we split this in 2 sections, so you have a number of policies on here. I'm not going to read through all the policies, but you've got several on here. If you had any questions on any of these, some of these were technical changes and some were just upgrading them to meet some standards. We sat for a couple hours on these, so we did put time into this stuff. Okay. If there's no questions, I'll look for a motion to approve the revisions to the policies as listed under item 12.
So moved, Courage.
Second, Swinton.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Moving on to item, are we down to item 12? The ad hoc committee, is that where I'm at?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, the ad hoc committee has met. One of you want to take over for right now?
Did you emailed out the plans, right?
Yes.
I didn't get a copy of that email.
Okay.
It's okay, it's all good, I was just verifying. It's all good.
Okay. We've met a couple times, we've come up with some recommendations. The board, there was a presentation at the January meeting of the board report. We've had numerous meetings, or at least 25 interactions, communications between community meetings, town board meetings, on the newspaper, in other resources with the radio and that type of thing. All 10 townships and the city had representatives from the committee that were there, and there was no concerns or questions except for taxes. That was the only issue that came up. There were 4 community meetings that we had, and there was no attendance. There was a recording of it online on the YouTube, and there were 30 visits last night, I think, because I clicked on it. So there were 30 that viewed it. So we've had it out there, the word is out. I think there's been a lot of good feedback on it. So the committee has gone ahead and made a recommendation to go with the Model C that was in the packet, which is the 333. Go ahead. I'm tired of talking. Dave Sharp.
So I'm actually looking at it, option 333 provides for 3 areas. I like to refer to them as zones, that's not the right word, but it's just for ease of use. Those 3 zones, if you look in the email, that if you have that in front of you, the first one is the city of Tomahawk. The second one includes, let's see how big we can get this. Let's see, hold on one sec, let me get it bigger because the eyesight is going. Bradley, Birch, Scanawa, Rock Falls, and the township of Tomahawk. And then the third one would be Nokomis, Little Rice, Wilson, King, and Harrison. We had to explore ways to combine those both with data as far as population as well as their physical location in order to meet state requirements. So bottom line is option C was the only one that did that. This model, this 333, allows anybody who lives in the district who has an interest in being on the school board to run for school board every single year. So nobody has to wait 2 years. You know, there will be a position that will be up for election every year for anybody in our school district. And that was a really big thing to, I think, the entire committee. So the election plan.
I'm just gonna touch on that for 1
Yep,
second,
go ahead.
Tushar. So,
Yep.
just to kind of reiterate again, this is the only model that really fit all of our criteria.
Right.
We looked at a number of other ways to combine the data and have different zones, but again, this was a strong push from the committee to have this type of 333 model, which allows for, you know, somebody to run every year and to have balanced population. So this wasn't the only one we looked at, but this is the one that we think makes the most sense for our district. So just for what that's worth, we considered 5 options
I
total?
believe there was at least 5. So the election, what would happen from this point forward, there'll be a petition that actually is already in the process of being drawn up. We have to collect signatures for that. We have to file that petition 30 days prior to the annual meeting, And then at the annual meeting, this will be voted on by members of the community and those people present at the annual meeting. Along with this, there is a election plan, and the bottom line is, anybody who is currently on the board will be allowed to complete their term, and then at the beginning in the 2025 election, so April of 2025, the positions that will be available will start moving into that 333. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there will be not necessarily a 333 representation for a couple of years as this is implemented. It actually kind of goes back and forth a little bit because of the fact that you have to allow people who are elected to complete their terms. So all of us that exist as existing board members at some point in time, will be impacted by that. So there's not anybody on the board really who won't be impacted by that change at some point in time. In the next, between the 25, 26, and 27 election years. By April of 2027, at the completion of that election, it will be fully implemented. So, bottom line is you finish out your term, but in 2025, we will have a spot for a City of Tomahawk. I'm gonna call them a yellow, purple, and green spot because that's how it's outlined. We've been using those colors a lot, but basically you'll have a City of Tomahawk position, a township of Bradley, Birch, Scanawa, Rock Falls, and I missed one, and Town of Tomahawk. And then a position for King, Harrison, Nokomis, Wilson, and Little Race. So we're just kind of changing how things are combined to make sure that we're allowing the best representation and a equal distribution of that representation based on population. And it's really close to 33%. It's pretty darn close. One is
less than 2% difference.
Yeah, City of Tomahawk is at 33.4. Bradley, Birch, Scanawa, Rock Falls Township of Tomahawk is at 32.8. And wow, this is really blurry and my eyes are really getting bad.
Nokomis, Little Rice, Wilson,
Is at
Harrison.
34.15. So, does anybody have any questions about that?
We did also have a conference call with the lawyer, with the Waswell lawyers, so we had questions to make sure we were following protocol and going through the procedures right. We had quite a few questions and we have everything in line.
And he was very, very helpful. He actually applauded the committee and said that it was very obvious to him, and the work that we had done, because we presented that all to him prior to our meeting, so he could look through and see what we had done. And he basically applauded us and said we had been very thorough.
Well, this took a while to put together. Will there be a time period when, let's say 10 years down the road, it will be revisited so that in case the population?
That is actually will be coming up as one of the committee's recommendations will be that we implement a policy that says every 10 years this will be reviewed, so that we aren't going another 50 to 60 years.
Exactly.
Without taking a second look at it.
Thank you.
There's a policy right now, policy 142.1, that talks about election. And we do have a sample from Elmbrook School District that shows what they do, how they do it every 10 years.
Perfect. That was a good start I had.
So we actually have that as part of one of the recommendations.
To-do list.
That will be, one of our to-do list items. So, at this stage of the game, we don't have to vote as a board on this, but we want to be sure that, the board is aware that this is the recommendation that we would like to see move forward. We are ready to move forward with a petition and collecting signatures for that petition based on these recommendations, and that will be
collective and then present it to Deb. And then we will be requesting that to be on the annual meeting, so. Any other input that I forgot?
Questions from,
I'm okay.
I think with the meeting, we talked about like voting this basically as an endorsement from the board. It's not
Looking for
necessarily
an
action, but looking for an endorsement from the board
Yeah.
to continue moving forward
Yeah,
the way that we are. So I guess that's what we're seeking.
yes.
Is an endorsement from the board, if somebody wants to make that motion. I'm not sure it's appropriate for Mayor Shara to make it necessarily.
Well, first, it's obvious to me that you've really done your homework, and I appreciate you for what you've done, and I would support that 3-3-3 model, my endorsement.
Got mine.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion, that's how I do it sometimes.
we're
That's
just-
my motion,
yeah,
Ann.
we aren't looking for an actual motion, but just that you're
Okay.
supporting it, that there's
Yeah.
an
Oh,
endorsement,
absolutely.
that we can go ahead and move forward with
I
the
would-
petition. Because I'm recommending we get the petition done before summer, so we have the summer off. We've already had 8 meetings on this, and we've gone through every population and everything. You know, I appreciate Chris Marlowe coming up and helping us with it, and we've had 3 community members, Ken and Marguerite and John Long helped with it, so.
Yeah, so we did get community input. We also are planning on getting another article into the Leader, I believe prior to putting that petition out, correct? Is that the
I
hope?
think, yeah.
Okay.
Once we get the
Once we got the
endorsement.
endorsement, then, you
Okay.
know, we basically wanted to say that, you know, in general, the board is supportive of this, but that ultimately it is a community-based vote, and that will happen at the annual meeting.
And also getting word back to the townships.
Correct.
Because everybody, it was in person, everybody, there was presentation for every township, it was on the agendas, and that type of thing, so. We went through,
All right.
okay.
Any other comments? Ron, Dick?
No, not me. At some point in time, incumbent will run against incumbent. Example, 25, Bob Skubal and I will run against each other, if I understand the proposal correctly.
At some point
So
in
I'm not
time,
implying that's a bad thing, I'm simply saying,
yes, at some
as
point
the
in
board
time,
looks at this recommendation, I think they be aware that in the future, they may, 2 incumbents may be running against each other.
correct.
Every election for the next 3 years, there'll be 2 incumbents running against each other
Yep,
in order to balance it out.
yep,
However, the following year, you'll have the opportunity to run, the loser will have the opportunity to run again.
correct.
Yeah.
So that's the difference in the constellation with this model.
Yeah, so it will impact everybody.
Yep.
You know, as we move through it.
Mhm.
So we all need, you know, we need to recognize that and, you know, take a look at that and plan accordingly, you know, so. We're not trying to get rid of anybody, but what we are trying to do is balance it out.
Because we tried looking at 1-year term with 2-year terms and trying to alter that way, and that was not a procedure that we could go through. We
Right,
talked
and
to
that
the
went
lawyer.
to the lawyer, that
Yeah.
actually came, we asked that question of legal as to whether or not we could do that, and the answer we got back was no. So, you know, bottom line, our option is you implement it at some point in time, and you just let it roll as it does.
60 years ago, it was done that way, but that was a whole different scenario because it was all the different school districts that were coming together and the different schools coming together. So this is the current board that's sitting here, standing, and that's what he said, to go with a 3-year term with everyone. So I think we crossed all our T's and dotted our I's and put some color in there too along the way. So, okay. And I thank the group for all their work on this. Moving on to item 14, public comment. If there's anybody here who wishes for a public comment. I guess I'd just like to recognize Allison Ewart, is that how you say her? Ewart? You know, on her co-teacher fellowship award. And that was pretty awesome. And she got that. She does a lot of cool
I
things
sent
with
her
the
an
kids.
email.
Yeah.
Very well.
Well deserved.
I'd like to welcome Matt, our new 5th grade special ed teacher. came to meet everybody and see what kind of board we had, I think. But welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Deb. Okay, we're moving on to item 16, going into closed session under Wisconsin statutes 19.85, considering employment, promotion, compensation, performance evaluation. Looking for a motion to go into closed session.